From my perspective, I encounter things as an African American female, absolutely.
Period.
But do I believe there's been a significant adjustment or change because I have a disability? I can't really say.
I can't either.
Yes. Or, I can't say that's been the case.
Absolutely.
Right. Was it more so that being Black was good in this sense due to the fact, yes, we have a disability, but we're also assumed as being angry. Angry Black women, the angry Black woman syndrome. So while I suffered with this disability, did the angry Black syndrome come out of me, and that's why no one dare not bother her, because I didn't get treated because it was more so because I was Black, because I am Black, not because of the disability. In fact, the angels came from everywhere when I was in public. The angels came from everywhere. Ma'am, can I get that for you? Can I help you? I mean, that just was like so heartfelt that people just, anywhere I went, outside of work and outside of home, inside of home, my husband was Johnny on it. He did it all from laundry to housekeeping, up and down the stairs for myself. My dear Peckham, and I cannot say enough about my place of employment and all the people, but that was very big for me too, coming to work. And when I walk in, the first section of Peckham that I see is SWE. And if SWE employees can get up and come in here, then by golly, I can too, and I will.
What's your experience in the world? How do you think about who Rasan is?
I try to change based on the day and the situation that I am. I mean, I'm a 39-year-old Black man from Michigan. I've lived here my whole life. I'm a paraplegic, but I look at myself just as an American young man trying to find his way, in the world and in society, like I would believe most people are. But I focus on trying to provide a good path for those to follow who either look up to me, who live around me, whether it be my kids, my family. As society is continuing to grow right now, I feel like it's fracturing more and more in smaller divisions and more tribalism. And I try to keep myself away from that. I try to put myself in those experiences. So I'm always constantly on a daily basis trying to change, trying to be somebody different. I don't want my children to be stuck on the mentality that this is who I am, this is who I'm always going to be. Because that's not true. You be who you want to be. You can change whenever you want to change.
What about you, Dee?
Especially since I was not born with the disability. I know I could be fixed. I could have surgery, but I didn't know when that was going to take place. So the disability, I wouldn't accept it. Once I humbled myself and said, "You're disabled," that is when I became to start defining myself.
Did you feel as though your disability or your race defined you? It sounded like it didn't define you, but you had to accept it.
Yes, in order to move forward. Because I was in major denial. No, I'm not. I'm going to walk in a minute. I'm going to be okay. And that was a 5-year journey. Once I began to accept it, I still was not going to let it define me. But still, to a degree, I still had to accept it. And then that one day came, and it's like, you're disabled.
As you were going through the process, and you talked about talking with your doctor, and you were not disabled before 23, did either of you have what was your experience accessing resources?
One thing about either one of them, being an African Black, African American, or being disabled, is you don't have a choice in it. I think being an African American, having to go through these struggles that we see and that we go through, has made me strong, very strong. I think it's made me stronger than many others who don't have those struggles. So when it was time for me to have to go through this, I think it was a lot easier for me to make that transition to being disabled from not. There are a lot of resources that African Americans and Black people, I believe, don't necessarily get and are not shown or I said given because of the color of the skin or whatever the case may be, or the assumptions or the prejudices But there's a lot of things that I've been given, and people have reached out and helped more because I'm disabled. I feel like they see the disability and the compassion comes out of them, and they don't see the color at that moment, and I feel like if more people would take the time to think and use that compassion, the disability wouldn't even be an issue, because the compassion is what brings people together. It's our unity, the things, the feelings, the emotions, and things that we go through that sometimes bring us together. Because I know for a fact if I was walking down the street with a hoodie, carrying groceries or whatever, struggling, there's a lot of chances many people would not help me. But when I was in my wheelchair doing the same thing, I got people from all different races, backgrounds, sizes, shapes, who are more than happy to help me and open the door for me and do these things for me. And I know they're doing it out of the compassion of the heart, and they see maybe a struggle, or maybe I might need help, or whatever the case may be. But to see that intersectionality getting changed based on a disability rather than my race is very interesting to me. I think resources are lacking, not just for African American disabilities, it's all across the board with disabilities. I don't think I've been through a situation where the lack of resources were not given to me, or resources were not given to me because of the color of my skin while I'm being disabled. I think those resources are just lacking. There is possibilities in different situations where I probably would have got a little bit more help if I was a Caucasian or whatever the case may be. I think around the country, little things need to change. They just don't see, There's many times I've been to places where they'll have a handicapped door and they'll have the button, but there's stairs, So you're halfway making the effort, but at the same time, you're not looking across the board. Companies, I feel like they try usually when they need to, or when there's a political agenda, or, virtual signaling. There's different reasons I feel that they make these changes instead of making these changes based on the needs of the community.
I became visually impaired later in life. I was always nearsighted. But it is interesting, because if someone doesn't know, they don't typically know that I have a disability, right? If I'm in a familiar environment, you all have seen me, I just walk around here like I know where I'm going. I have a cane, but I have not used it, right? And that's part of the denial. I have not ever been one that wanted to ask for help, right? That's very difficult for me. And so, but when you have a disability, you have to. Now, I have seen, it's interesting that you talk about resources and access to resources, and you think that people have been more helpful because they see that you have a disability. I have actually been places where, I'm approached in one way, and I just keep rolling with it, but when they put something in front of me and they want me to read it, and I tell them I can't see that, right, because I have visual impairment, their demeanor can entirely change.
Yes, immediately.
It's very interesting.
It is.
They will be apologetic, and I say, don't apologize. You're not responsible for the visual impairment, but I just need you to understand I need some help filling this out. Although I will say that sometimes when I can't see a screen or something like that, I might be in a retail operation, I wonder if they think I can't read.
That's right.
I
agree.
When you think about access to resources, medical resources, I have always been one, because of the research on people of color and African Americans specifically, and the disparities in treatment and health resources, I often go in suited up. I don't go in just comfortable clothes. Now, the places that get to know me over time, yes, I can go in, but I want to make sure that they understand I will ask questions. I expect more of you and me. And so you get treated a little bit differently, and that has to do with being a person of color. When people realize you have a disability, they are generally more helpful. And Peckham, it's in the air here.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. Here,
It's in the air.
here.
People
That's right.
come, and we need more folks outside of the bubble.
Correct.
What I call the
Correct.
Peckham bubble.
Yes.
Which is a beautiful bubble to be in.
Yes.
Right? To think and empathize in the same way.
One thing, part of the Black experience, that frustrates me, disabled community or experience, I guess kind of flows into that, is being subjugated to one thing or one time. So, for example, Black History Month. I appreciate that we're having this conversation, and it needs to be had, and we need to do these things, but we should be doing it all year long. Yeah. American history is Black
American history.
That's
Yes.
exactly right. There's no such thing as Black history. It's American history.
Yes.
And it should be taught all year long. Disability experience should be spoken and looked at and conversated about all year long, not just during Disability Awareness Month. It was great that we started these things because there was a lack of knowledge and information. But now that it's out here, let's start incorporating it in our daily lives. Let's start learning about disabilities and African American lifestyles and cultures and heroes, and as well as Latin American and Asian American and everything else that has to do with America. Let's do it year long, and it's not subjugated to one time.
Greater awareness all the way around.
Yes.
Agreed. We're making progress, but we
Absolutely.
need to speed the progress up for those that
And that's the thing,
in the midst of it all, right?
Yes.
We always said let's have a conversation, and it's great, but we need to start talking and start making more action behind it,
So, Didi, when you think about what advice you'd like to share with the world outside of Peckham, right? We'll see this in Peckham, but the world outside of Peckham about the experiences or how people can be just more helpful in general, more thoughtful, more planful with respect to people with disabilities, African Americans with disabilities. What would you like them to know? What advice would you have for them?
Once you have humbled yourself and accepted that you have become disabled, now it's time to change that mindset. Just know that I, in my heart, refuse to claim my disabilities. That's the first time you've heard me say my disabilities, and that will most definitely be the last time you say my. I always said this pyoderma gangrenosum, this hip necrosis, this. No, I was not born with that stuff, so just because I end up with it all, it's still not mine. It does not belong to me. I do not claim it at all, because if all good things are going to come to an end, then bad things are going to come to an end. Pyoderma gangrenosum, hip necrosis, and diverticulitis. All of that happened to me in a 10-year span. Over the course of that 10-year span, yes, I was sad, I cried, I was mad, I was angry. I experienced every emotion there was to experience. But guess what? It all came to an end. 175 pounds, 5'10", to 269 pounds, 5'9". I think I may have even shrank. For it all to come to a complete end, and now I'm back. Some people are born with these type disabilities, and for me, I was totally picked up, turned around, and placed back on solid ground as me again. So that's what I would like to say to the world outside of Peckham. Things don't last always. Don't claim that stuff. It does not belong to you.
One of the things I think it's important for folks outside of the Peckham bubble and inside of the Peckham bubble, we are as capable, right?
Absolutely.
As anyone else.
Absolutely.
We're not fragile beings.
Yes.
right?
That's exactly
Yes.
right.
We have many abilities. There may be some additional assistance we need to get through situations, to complete projects or anything like that. But it doesn't mean that we are fragile
That's right.
and not capable of being full contributing members
Yes.
to whatever, our families, our church community, our neighborhood community, our school community, our work community, whatever, the business community, whatever we decide we want to opt into.
And now that you say that, I refused a lot of help because no, I can do this. I got it. No, I don't need your help. No, I don't need your help. I can do it myself. So yeah, thank
I
you
do
for
that a lot of times, sometimes too. Oh no, I'll be
I got
okay.
it. I got it.
And sometimes I just need to say, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's,
Exactly.
that was one of probably the hardest thing I had to go through was my pride. When I first got hurt, I refused to move in with my mother or my brother. I wanted to live alone. I wanted to know what it was like to be alone, to have to do these things alone. But after a while, I had to get out of that, knowing that it is okay to ask for help or accept it.
Yes.
Not only that, back to what you were saying about, fragility, it's really funny. Sometimes I fall on my chair. Just me being extra, trying to do too much, instead of asking for help or letting someone help me. And as soon as I fall, oh my God, it's almost like I was made of glass. I mean, people around, they are there, and it cracks me up because a lot of times it's just a little simple tip, and for me, falling like that is like somebody tripping over a rock and, maybe falling on their knees. But they don't think that, they don't see that when they see me. They see he's in a wheelchair. Oh my God, he probably broke every bone in his body when he fell, But, so I have to, they have to get used to it. People have to, and it's with the experience of being around people with disabilities, like I said, you really don't know it until you go through it. So the assumptions of a lot of people are that, oh my God, they're fragile. If something happens, if they fall, it's going to be catastrophic, and
Right.
It's not always like that. However, somebody said something that really stuck with me. Wesley, I can't think of his last name. He came and spoke.
Oh, Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
And he said one thing that was truer than anything I probably heard in a long time is that everybody will become disabled at one point in time in their life.
Wow.
Some people become disabled earlier than others, but eventually everybody becomes disabled. Eventually, you may need glasses or become blind. Eventually, you may need a cane or a wheelchair. Eventually, you may need assistance. It's going to come in your lifetime. So not only expect it, but at the same time, as a community, setting up things in the world so that people who do have them can get along and go through life with a little bit more simplicity. Doors, ramps, vision impaired things and help people with everything across the board, ear impairment, everything, because eventually you're going to go through it too.
Yeah.
We are all going to go through it. So we need to start setting things up in the world and the community based on that fact.
Yeah.
I think if people start realizing that and remembering that, I think more things will be accessible.
Yes.
More people will realize these things, and I think the stigmas and the lack of things that people with disabilities have, I think that will narrow. There's always going to be prejudices. There's always going to be assumptions. It's just human nature. However, if we can start preparing ourselves and preparing the world that we live in to accept these things and expect these things, I think things will flow a lot easier. So that's something I think everybody needs to realize and remember. You're going to be disabled at one point in time.
I never thought about that.
But I don't like necessarily saying disabled and focus on my disability. Let's just talk about what I'm able to do. What are my abilities?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
When I think of fragility also, I think of some people thinking that because we may have some sort of disability, that they ought not ask us to participate in things that are too difficult.
Yes.
Right. Now, I know when I shouldn't go hiking up steep places
Absolutely.
with rocks, right?
That's exactly right.
But if you've got a flat hike or something like that, or something with
That's
just
right.
a slight incline, count me in.
That's right.
Right? And so it's interesting that balance between our own pride and in being able to do things ourselves, being raised to take care of ourselves, and the need to occasionally have assistance.
I tell people, instead of making assumptions, it's always better to ask. Too often, we miss out on things and on opportunities based on those assumptions. We have to let our pride go, you know.
Have to.
We have to be able to say, you know what, that's a little too hard for me. I'm not going to be able to do it based on my situation because I can't see. However, if I have this accessibility, I can do my job and over beyond it if I have the things that I need in order to do that.
Any final thoughts or last words you'd like to share?
I spent 10 years of my life angry and mad and bitter. Why me? Why me? My answer was, why not me? No more anger, no more bitterness. I don't hold on to that stuff because life is too short. Whether you have a disability or not, you can still enjoy life.
Absolutely. What about you, RJ?
I just want people to continue to be open for change in your aspects, in your outlooks, and in your beliefs, and what you think life is, because there is no true answer. Life will always change, and life is always different for every person. But we need to start coming together more often and having not just these conversations, but having action behind them. We need to continue to be open to be wrong. We need to be open to be right. We need to be open to changing your aspects and what you thought was and what actually is. And the only way to do that is by coming to the next person and just talking to them. We need to start talking to each other, and we continue to separate each other. So the separation is really hurting us. We have to be open to come just as quick as somebody is open to help me if I fell out of my chair or if I can't open the door, then to be just as open for a person of color or a person from a different religion. All these same things that you are willing to do out of compassion for one person, you should continue to do it for everyone.
So the human-to-human dialogue, which includes talking and listening and having compassion, right, for our fellow humans. Yeah.
I don't want to be hired because I'm black. I don't want extra advances and gains because I'm a certain color and you want to add that to your numbers or whatever the case may be. I don't want that either, you know. But I just want to be treated as a human being, looked at as a human being, looked at as if I was your son. What would you do if he was going through this? If I was your father, this was your uncle. If I was your friend, you know, treat the person that you see across from you just like you would treat anybody else. And I think things will make the world a lot smoother. I really do. I truly believe it. So it's the education that we can teach each other of our experiences and compassion. Absolutely.
What a great way to wrap up. Thank you both for taking time to sit down and talk about the human issues, not
Yes.
necessarily, as you said, categorized in one bucket or another, but really how we interact and the feelings that we process, right, and the stages
That's
we
right.
go through.
Absolutely.
And thank you for participating in this for our attempt
Thank you.
to make the world a better place
This is where it starts.
as we move throughout it. Thank
Thank
you
you.
both.
You are so welcome.
Thank you. I'm honored.
Very welcome.